In the build-up to the new season of Doctor Who, I'm taking a look back at every episode from Season 1 and re-reviewing them all after a year of dwelling. Spoilers ahead for the whole series. Okay, so Space Babies, the season opener for the brand new show known as Doctor Who. I say brand new. It's a reboot of sorts. Doctor Who wasn't cancelled recently like it was in the 80s, so this isn't really a revival, but in a bid to revive the public perception of the show and sell it back to an American audience after it sort of petered off in the 2010s, they're treating Doctor Who from 2023 as a brand new show, starting with Season 1. Problem is, I said 2023, not 2024. Season 1 is not the first part of this new show. Bad Wolf Productions got 26 episodes commissioned by Disney as part of their deal. 2 seasons of 8 episodes, that's 16, 2 Christmas ones, 3 anniversary specials, and a 5-episode spin-off. I have my opinions on why the way they handled this 26-episode deal might just be the reason Doctor Who gets cancelled for good soon, but that video is coming in the future. It all depends on how Season 2 goes, if I ever make that one. Anyway, my point is, the 60th anniversary specials, which were the first Russell T Davies penned episodes since The End of Time Part 2 in 2010, served as connecting tissue between the 2005 revival and the new show airing now. They even went as far as to refer to the anniversary specials as The Bridge during production. The Bridge trilogy is, I don't want to get into it quite yet, that video is coming, but it is at its core the beginning of a new saga. It introduced plot elements and characters that would later be vital to the main show, and it introduces our new Doctor. This is fine, in fact it's a very good way of regenerating a Doctor. Anniversary episodes tend to get a lot of attention, but as a first episode of a new era, I'm not sure. This was followed by A Christmas Story, The Church on Ruby Road, which introduced Ruby Sunday and gives us a much better idea of who the new Doctor is. This episode ends having set up some good future story arc threads and characters, so really it's no different to how the show used to do it, assuming everyone was tuning in at the time. But this is a brand new show, isn't it? Who tunes in for a special that's not called Episode 1, if you've never seen the show before? Well, 5 months later, Space Babies aired as the first episode of the exciting new series of the brand new show Doctor Who, and the opening scene is a follow-on from the semi-cliffhanger ending of the standalone Christmas one. I mean, obviously episode 1 is the Christmas one, but they didn't want to go with that. They decided to make 4 seemingly random episodes first, and then start the show having already established a lot of the plot details in said episode that a lot of people might not have seen. Anyway, my big grievance with this stuff is basically that the transition from the old show to the new show was messy and muddled and hard to follow, leaving Space Babies with a unique, almost impossible task. Introduce the show and characters again, while following on from a cliffhanger, and make it entertaining. And I mean, it's fine. I know I've complained a lot about this episode already, but really a lot of that is just down to the politics and production side of things. And I do truly think every decision made with the production of Doctor Who since 2022 has been the wrong one. But again, that is for another video. Truthfully though, I do quite like Space Babies. I think it's a fun adventure that I probably would have enjoyed a lot more when I was 7 or 8, much like I did when I watched Smith & Jones or Partners in Crime when I was 7 or 8. The first episode of a season, especially a Russell T Davies season, is always light-hearted, fun, and makes the Doctor and the world of Doctor Who seem magical and weird with crazy monsters and aliens, which is why I find this episode to actually be jarringly inconsistent. For every joke about stepping on butterflies and becoming an alien, or every cute baby that talks and tells Ruby they love her, there is a weirdly dark, sometimes heartbreaking notion of abandonment and emotional neglect. Space Babies theoretically is a very fun episode with a nice premise. A bunch of babies in space that can talk are being scared by a bogeyman based on stories about the made-up bogeyman. It's typical Russell T Davies Doctor Who, quite frankly, but in practice it is all over the place. There are moments of the babies explaining their abandonment, expressing their desire for approval and affection. I'm sure to children this was fine, but as an adult member of the audience, which, whether intentional or not, is the majority of the Doctor Who viewership these days, I just found it too heavy. I mean, obviously I can handle dark and heavy stories, but when done properly. This episode jumped from making jokes about bogies and shouting the phrase "Space Babies" 100 times to making me want to cry at the thought of these little ones having been grown and starved of nurturing and attention that they latch on to the first people they see. It's not even like I'm reading between the lines here, it's weirdly unsubtle in the way this episode executes these moments. I'm always for darker themes and heavier moments in Doctor Who. Some of my favourite episodes, in fact all of my favourite episodes, are typically the ones that get the most horrible. But like I said, this needs to be supported by the episode as a whole. I don't really want to compare the episode to old ones, because that's not what this video is about, but take something like Utopia, a remarkably dark story when you think about it. But it's never light-hearted. All throughout the episode there are themes of hopelessness, moments of fear and loss, underlined by the infectious confidence and ambition of the Doctor. It doesn't mean it's a light-hearted, fun episode with undertones of darkness, if that makes sense. It means that when the episode needs to scare you or shock you, you have been primed. It's not so shocking that it distracts you from the episode. And while I'm not trying to say Space Babies is shocking even in the slightest, I do find the tonal shifts a little bit too much and fairly distracting a lot of the time. Anyway, themes aside, that just stood out to me when I was rewatching this, and I remember it bothering me back when I first saw it. This episode is doing too much. The first 5 to 10 minutes is nuts. It never slows down, and it does everything it can to give you a crash course on Doctor Who, and that is not a good thing. Russell T Davies seemingly pulled from the book of Russell T Davies here and threw his usual best hits at the wall and hoped they'd stick. Showing Ruby a planet from a spaceship, making her phone someone from the future, giving her the TARDIS key, explaining the two hearts, the time machine, being the last of his kind, something that thematically works very well in the context of this episode and the Bogeyman, but it is overdone now. I thought the whole point of the 60th anniversary trilogy was to put that grunge, depressed Doctor aside for a refreshed outlook on life, but now we have a brooding Last of the Time Lords Doctor again, and this time it's not even true. I mean, it was never true, but even now he actually knows it's not true. Really inconsistent writing here, but honestly so much of it just felt like a rehash. I know there are certain things you need to do when introducing a new show, especially a new Doctor or a new season, but so much all at once, it felt like a recap, and it'd be fine if it was, but it wasn't. It was too much to be a recap, and it was too fast and brief to be a first-time intro. Space Babies, I like the tone, is all over the place in terms of serving its purpose as a season opener. And again, I think a large part of this is because it's simultaneously Season 1 Episode 1 and Season 1 Episode 5 of the show. It's really frustrating. Anyway, there is still a lot to love in this episode, the standout for me being Ruby. She has the usual companion stuff, like being amazed by the Doctor, the TARDIS, asking questions about the world they're in. But she was great, and in my opinion really well characterised. Her caring, motherly nature came through in droves the second she saw the babies, and her history of never knowing her real parents and the pain that caused her showed beautifully in so many moments here without ever being too over the top. She also had one of my favourite joining the TARDIS scenes ever. Her reluctance and excitement was palpable in a way I don't think any other companions have shown as well. Millie Gibson, in my opinion, was a huge part of why I enjoyed Space Babies. That's not to say Ncuti Gatwa wasn't also great, but he's yet to shine in my eyes. He does, don't worry, just not in this episode. He's the Doctor for sure, and I think his performance was excellent. I just think as a character, as a presence, the Doctor just wasn't the Doctor enough yet, and really that was down to the writing more than anything. I really like the talking Space Babies. I don't like how often the Doctor feels the need to say the sentence Space Babies, though. However, that is probably a byproduct of some piss poor editing and a lot of cutting room floor stuff. I feel like there was probably a missing payoff to all of that, like all the push the button stuff that was cut. It's a shame really. This episode, like most in the series, was clearly meant to be closer to 55 minutes or even an hour, and I think that's just yet another production side thing that hurt the episode. Space Babies also introduces some series arc threads, and taking them at face value here in this episode, it works really well, it's great. The Doctor scanning Ruby in the TARDIS, peak Moffat. I mean, actually he stole it from Moffat, but frankly he was the best human being to ever pen Doctor Who, so that's fine. The snowing, the memory changing, the very obvious arc of discovering who Ruby's mum was, it all works very well in this episode in my eyes. I remember when I first watched it last year, I was already hooked, and it felt like the crack in the wall all over again. Ah, how greatness can fall. I think that might really be all the major stuff I wanted to talk about here in this review retrospective. A few smaller things I wanted to note. The CGI is good in this episode. The babies look a bit funky, but it's silly, so it's fine. The Bogeyman is a great mix of practical and CGI. Loved that. The Doctor nearly saying shit was a bad idea. I don't ever do that again, unless he's really livid, because they played it off as a joke. But that's not the Doctor. Even this Doctor. The Doctor telling Ruby's family his name missed the mark for me. Maybe some people would have liked that, but no, I think even if he is no longer as wound up as he used to be, his name is his name. Leave that one alone. Some of the humour felt a bit too much. Very Russell T Davies 1 era, which is great, don't get me wrong, but maybe tone it down a little. Though I will say this is the only time in the series that is a problem, and there are always things like this that need to be allowed for episode 1. I like the TARDIS, I don't like the opening credits, I like the setup of Ruby and her family. It's a good enough first episode in my eyes, not one I want to revisit a lot, but it serves a purpose and it did a lot that needed to be done, even if it could have been done a lot better. I'm giving this a 5 out of 10, not great, not awful, I enjoy it, but I don't have any desire to go back outside of a full rewatch. Certainly won't skip it though. Thanks for watching. This is a new channel I'm dedicating to Doctor Who, so if you've moved over here from Corkben, then thanks. If you're just discovering me for the first time and you like my videos or you like video games like Rayman, then be sure to check out my other channel which I've just mentioned, Corkben. I've got a video covering the Devil's Cord coming very soon, but until then stay wibbly, stay wobbly, stay timey-wimey, and I will see you in the next one.